gods, it is true. I have fought my way through the guardians of Hades and crawled my way out of the fires of torment to change my fate. And for my efforts, the sisters shine their light upon me, delivering the very object of my vengeance, Kratos.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at some of the more obscure facts concerning God of War's lore that many fans may be unaware of.
Why? What does it mean?
I haven't the foggiest. Isn't that unexpected?
But before we dive in, we publish new content all week long. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Ares' first use for Kratos. In the original game, Ares came to Kratos in his time of greatest need, making him champion to the god of war and giving him the power to vanquish his foes. Their relationship would receive some slight retcons later. One, that Ares had encountered Kratos before as a boy, as shown in 2010's Ghost of Sparta. And two, that when Ares gave Kratos his power, it was part of a larger scheme to eventually overthrow Zeus, as described in 2013's Ascension. However, this was not the first time Ares saw fit to make Kratos his champion. Also released in 2010 was a 6-issue comic series from DC and Wildstorm. Most of the plot focused on flashbacks in which different Greek gods bet against each other, choosing different mortals to hunt down mystical, all-healing Ambrosia, and giving them the necessary motivation to do so. Ares, of course, picked Kratos, who sought the Ambrosia to save his infant daughter from a plague. Unsurprisingly, he came out on top.
I was trying to make you a great warrior. You succeeded.
The hatred of Hermes.
Look who it is! Kratos, the ghost of Sparta, the fallen god, the cursed mortal.
Throughout the Greek games, you can tell that most of the gods don't really care for Kratos. But Hermes, who only appears in God of War 3, is especially hateful. There are a few things you could chalk it up to, namely that Kratos is in the midst of leading a war on Olympus when the two cross paths, yet Hermes still holds more disdain for Kratos than most other Olympians. And the answer as to why can be found in a 2007 mobile game, God of War Betrayal. Here, Kratos is framed by an unknown assassin for killing Argos, a companion to Hera. He then fights off the forces sent after him, eventually taking the life of Hermes' son, Syrinx. Sony didn't feel the need to bring up a character from a mobile game most of us probably didn't play, but it adds a new layer to Hermes' wrath. Atreus' first hunt. About 2 months before 2018's God of War launched, Sony released a text-based prequel in partnership with Facebook. A Call from the Wilds was an interesting experiment, using Messenger to move you along a short story. If you skipped it, feeling you'd rather wait until you could actually play a God of War game, you missed out on some early development for Kratos' son Atreus. Set before the death of his mother, it follows an average day of training before he hears a telepathic cry for help. It leads him to a wounded deer and a couple of Draugr, of which his father rescues him from. Knowing how poorly Atreus' first solo adventure goes adds some additional tension to moments from the game, in which Kratos doubts his son's abilities.
I'm sorry.
Do not be sorry. Be better.
Odin's Ravens.
You never do seem to get rid of those things.
In the 2018 game, you'd find green ravens hidden all throughout the world. It became clear these were spies for Odin, and since you got XP for destroying them, there were 2 reasons to do so. However, in Ragnarok, they became something more than a simple challenge to gain experience. After you kill them, the ravens end up on a tree in Niflheim, where you also unlock tiered rewards. Here, they'll speak in creepy poetic verse, eventually revealing how they came to be. They were all children hung by their parents and sacrificed to Odin, warped and forced to do his bidding by the Raven Keeper. The reason some players might not realize this is that there are 48 ravens hidden in the corners of this rather large game, and the full story is doled out across multiple visits.
We'll take it down together.
Faye's pet.
Are you joining me?
In addition to comics and text-based adventures, God of War has also gotten several novelizations, which can often come with interesting storylines, characters, or just fun facts you don't get in the games. For example, in the 2018 novelization, Faye had a pet falcon named Yuffie. Though she disappears after Faye passes, she eventually shows back up, reappearing from time to time on Kratos and Atreus' adventure. There's even a fun bit where she chases off Odin's ravens, Hugin and Munin, while the two of them are hiding. Although non-canonical, it would have been cool to get a mention of her during Ragnarok, which explored Kratos' relationship with Faye.
You will do this for me.
Aldumbla, the primordial cow. If you ever visited Niflheim in God of War Ragnarok and wondered just what in the hell was up with that giant cow skeleton in the distance, you likely aren't alone. This is meant to be Aldumbla, a primordial bovine who played a key role in the birth of the world in Norse mythology. At the dawn of time, she and Ymir, the first giant, were born out of the meeting of the fiery Muspelheim and the icy Niflheim. While feeding Ymir with her milk, she also licked free Buri, the progenitor of the Aesir gods. You don't get any of this in the game, though. In fact, the only mention of Aldumbla comes in the 2018 game, used in exclamation by Mimir.
Great Aldumbla's others. That's the Unity Stone.
The missing god.
All I have left is my bow. Please, free me, and it is yours.
Naturally, with such big pantheons, there are a lot of deities in both Greek and Norse mythology that had to be left out of the games. But there's one whose absence is more glaring than others when you really think about it: Apollo. Elements of Apollo have appeared multiple times, yet he was never shown, nor his whereabouts ever mentioned. You can see several murals and statues in honor of him in God of War Ascension. You famously get his bow as a ranged weapon in God of War 3. His sister lends her power to Kratos in the first game before vanishing herself, and he's even mentioned in the 2010 comic through Apollo's flame, given to Kratos by a healer, which ends up playing a huge role in the climax. Ingrid's origins. Able to telepathically communicate and fight on her own, Ingrid the Sword is one of the cooler parts of Atreus' sections in Ragnarok. She's lent to him by Odin, and while she seems uneasy in Odin's presence, you later learn it's because she actually belongs to Freyr, reuniting with the Vanir deity during the climactic final battle. The origin of this sword and how it came to be in Odin's possession isn't given until after the story ends, and only if you feel like doing some exploring. Freya tells the story of Ingrid's creation and how her brother would only set it down if he died or fell in love. A later bit of dialogue from Mimir reveals Odin disguised himself and tricked Freyr into falling for him, just so he could get the sword. Because both of these are post-game exchanges you can hear randomly while exploring, a lot of players may have missed them. The beginning of the barbarian feud.
And descended on the Spartans without mercy.
The barbarians and their king Ulrich played important roles in the early days of God of War. With Ulrich's army bearing down on him, this was when Kratos turned to Ares for help. However, we once more go to the 2010 comic for an interesting bit of lore that reconceptualizes this moment. One of the other gods in the wager with Ares was Hades, who chose Ulrich to be his champion. As his motivation, Hades cursed Ulrich's father with a sickness that could only be cured with ambrosia. Although Ulrich came close to victory, he was defeated by Kratos, whose victory here would lead to him becoming a captain in the Spartan army. Ulrich also received a promotion, becoming king after his father's death. He swore vengeance on Kratos, setting into motion the events that would forever change his life. Time in Egypt.
That's from a great desert land very far from here.
Do gods live there?
Oh my, yes. Many, many gods.
Although nothing has been officially confirmed, recent reports and a ton of Easter eggs in the Norse games point to Egyptian as the next mythology that God of War will adapt. And while there are many nods to Egypt in both the 2018 game and its sequel, the series has made reference to it numerous times. The prequel comic, Fallen God, sees Kratos pass through Egypt on his way to Midgard, and even encounters Thoth, the Egyptian god of the moon, knowledge, art, and many other things. But Egypt has existed within God of War since long before. In 2013's Ascension, as Kratos goes to see the Oracle of Delphi, you can find a note from someone from the land of the Pharaoh who could not return home without seeing her from fear of death. Even before that, Egypt was present, as both Ares and Hermes spent time there in the novelizations of God of War 1 and 2, respectively.
Oh, an artifact from the River Empire. Never been myself. Here it's lovely.
Do you know of any other pieces of obscure God of War lore? Be sure to share your knowledge with us in the comments, and we'll see you next time.